This is my Ficus Elastica stem cutting. It's been rooting in water for about 3 months. I'm going to be putting it in this new pot today, transitioning it from water to soil. And I'm also going to show you a few methods on propagating a Ficus Elastica or rubber plant. I'm just going to use this beautiful camo version of the Ficus Elastica, and this is the Taniki, that's how I pronounce it. What you want to do is find a stem cutting that is about 5 inches or so. There are leaf lines or leaf scars. Typically what I would do is cut right in between those. You want probably about 3 or 4 leaves on there, and then I'll show you a couple different ways of propagating a stem cutting. The first method, which I did with mine here, is just water propagation. So you find a container suitable for the size of this plant, just place it in water, change the water every few days so that it stays clean and oxygenated. Like I said, this one's probably been in here for about 3 months, and you can see it is developing substantial roots, I think suitable enough for soil. The second method of propagating an unrooted stem cutting is just placing the end of the stem in some rooting hormone here and then placing it in some soil. After it's placed in the pot, you want to cover the entire plant and pot with plastic. If it's small enough, maybe a Ziploc bag, but you just want to create humidity, maintain soil moisture so that it can start to develop roots. Otherwise, the soil will dry out pretty fast and it will not be able to sustain enough moisture for the entire plant, especially with these larger leaves. So place it in the pot, cover it with some plastic, and put it in a nice sunny area. Another highly successful way of propagating a Ficus elastica is by what's called air layering. So what you want to do is find a section like this, remove a leaf if there is one near it. Basically the concept is removing kind of the outer bark, placing a small portion of soil wrapped in saran wrap in that area, and just kind of leave it there for a few weeks until it develops roots. Once you notice some roots, then you can remove the stem cutting, say like right there, and then plant the already rooted portion in some soil. I've never done this method before, but once this plant gets a little bit larger, then I will definitely be trying an air layering method. I'll probably get some questions asking if you can propagate just a leaf, but unfortunately, the answer is no. In order to grow a new plant or grow into a larger plant, you do need a section of the stem, the petiole, and some leaves. If you do try and root a leaf with just the petiole, you will grow some roots, but unfortunately, it will not grow into a tree. So that's the 3 ways of propagating these: from water, soil, make sure you have it covered and tented to maintain humidity, and then the air layering method. So now I'm going to be placing this in a pot, and I'll explain some of the ways to properly transition a plant from water to soil. The first thing I did was pick out an appropriate size pot. You don't want anything too small that it will grow out of fairly quickly, and you don't want anything too big. They typically hold on to a little bit moisture when there's excessive soil in there, so you don't want it sitting too wet. Once it starts to get new growth and kind of outgrow this pot, then you can put it in something just a little bit larger, but for now, I'm going to be placing it in this one. When sizing it up, you basically want the kind of bottom leaf to be at the level of the soil. So I'm going to put a little bit of soil in the bottom of the pot here, and then I'm going to place it in and just backfill it so that this leaf is just at the soil line. The soil mixture I'm using is just a combination of tropical and succulent cactus soil, and the reason for that is just I had to use a couple bags up. It allows for good drainage. You don't want these sitting in wet soil for very long, so just keep an eye on the soil and water it accordingly. I'm just going to take the cutting here and size it up. So I have it filled up so that the plant is staying upright on its own, but I am going to fill up just a little bit more and just kind of lightly packing it down as I go. You want to keep it snug enough so that it doesn't tip over. I think we're going to be okay there. So now that the pot's filled up with soil, I'm going to give it some water here in a second, but I just wanted to explain this leaf right here, this bottom one. Eventually, you will lose it as the plant continues to grow. So having it kind of leaning or bracing itself on the edge of the pot is not a big deal. It just helps with support and stability as the plant continues to grow. For the first watering of any new soil that I put in a pot, I will always water with peroxide and water mixture. So 1 part peroxide, 4 parts water. And the reason for that is it will kill on contact fungus gnat, eggs, and larvae. Sometimes in packaged soil, you will see them kind of fly out. So not a big deal. So just water it for the first time, and hopefully that will take care of any unseen pests in the soil. The most important thing when transitioning a plant from water to soil is keeping the soil wet for probably about 2 weeks or so, and then just slowly decreasing the amount of water and soil moisture. It's really tough on the plants to go from being in water to kind of the driest soil, so you don't want the roots to dry out. I'm just going to water the top. Whoops. quite evenly with the peroxide water mixture and let that drain through. Since the roots are closer to the bottom of the pot here, I'm actually going to bottom water as well because I want those roots to stay nice and wet. Just going to lift that up a little bit. Just put a little bit of water in the bottom of the saucer and it will kind of soak itself up there throughout the soil. And just let that sit for about 20 minutes or so. I use terracotta pots, and as you can see right there, we'll zoom in, that a lot of times you can see the moisture on the side of the pot. So that's what makes these pots exceptionally good at pulling moisture from the soil and evaporates fairly quick. So using a good draining soil and a clay pot helps with kind of soil moisture at the bottom of the pot. So you just want to water so that it drains out the bottom of the drain holes for the first watering. Just make sure that the soil doesn't dry out. Keep the soil relatively damp for like I said, about the first 2 weeks, and then slowly cut back on watering to a regular watering routine. So that's pretty much it for this video. Those are the ways to propagate this plant. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Bye.